Hey folks, it's Eugene here, and I'm happy to announce that we have a new version of Vision 3D that is going to be coming out. And we have a number of little feature improvements, performance improvements, a few other bells and whistles. And I'm going to walk you through some of those things that we've included in here. And yeah, it's probably just the best way is just to go through this with a little example, and I'll stop here and there just to kind of show you what we've got. Now, the current version at this time is 1.2-6, and we will increment this either with a -7 or maybe like a 1.3, just depending on what we decide to do. So I'm actually using a beta version. So let me flip to this one here. So this is the beta version right here. So it's not going to be this number here. It's got like 1.291, but don't look at that right now. It's probably going to change to something else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new scene. Just use the defaults, and immediately I'm going to import a point cloud. And so let me do that. Now, this was a point cloud that was scanned with Recon 3D on a training course that I just did this past week in Germany. So it only took about 4 minutes, and I did a number of passes up and down, but here you go. You can see it here. Now, this is 23 million points, okay, just over 23 million points. And we're not going to reduce this or downsample. We could if we wanted to, but we're just going to leave everything as is. And just a little note, it says center on origin. So this is now going to center this bounding box, the position here at the center of the screen. And if I didn't want that and I wanted to keep the original positions, I would uncheck this, and you can see there's a little shift here in the scanner. But I am going to center this. And when I do that, I'm also going to position the point cloud. And so there you go. So you see when I move this around, I can see the grid is above the road surface. Now you don't have to do this if you don't want, but I'm going to align it. And this brings me to something that we've changed. And that is that it's the positioning tools here. So if you go to the drop down, you'll see that we have some of the positioning tools all wrapped up under this icon here. Okay, so if I want to raise it to the ground point, I'll pick a point here maybe. Okay, it raises it up. Okay, so there's a little bit of an incline to this. So let me do it again, and I'll raise this side because this is probably a little bit lower. So let me try that, and you can see that, it's now above the ground plane. So that's cool. In a similar fashion, we took the tags, and we've also wrapped these up underneath one icon. We've also added an audio tag, and we also have a URL tag for external links. Okay, so if you're not seeing all the icons where they typically are, they're just wrapped up under this one right here. So no big deal there. A couple other things on the point cloud. Okay, so when I click on the point cloud, you see there's a little lock over here. Now, if I click on this and I lock it, when I click off of it and click on it again, I don't have the gizmo for translation or rotation. And that just saves you from accidentally moving the point cloud in case there's a lot of overlapping items. Sometimes it's difficult to pick the actual one you want. And maybe in the future, we might even lock the selection so you can't actually select it from here in the screen. There's a bounding box. Okay, but I'm going to leave it locked because I don't really need to do anything here. But when I go down into the properties, I want to point something out here. It says enable interactive level of detail. And what that does is it just really increases the performance. And this is typically on larger point clouds. If you have a small point cloud, it won't turn on automatically. And I think it's at about the 20 million mark where it actually kicks in. Now, if I uncheck this and I start to move this, now this may be a little difficult for you to see in my screen, but the performance isn't as great. It's not as smooth as it was before. So I'm going to turn this on. And when I do this now, it's just like butter, just really, really, really smooth, which is fantastic. Another thing that we changed, or we've added, I should say, is if you go to your settings, you'll see that you've got the field of view and the camera frustum size. So you can change the field of view automatically here. We didn't have this feature, but you see that now I'm seeing a wider field of view, and I can change that back to 50. That's important. Another camera option that we've added is down here, the near clip and far clip. Now, it says auto camera clipping range. So we automatically calculate the clipping range based on sort of the scale of the scene. But if you run into a problem, all you have to do is uncheck this, and then you can adjust the near and far clipping to your liking, whatever it is that you need. Okay, good. So let's continue on. What I'm going to do is, I think I'll do a viewpoint. And I'm going to show you some things we can do with the viewpoint. So if I move into a position like this, and let's say I want a view over here. Let's say I look down the road, something like that. I'm just going to go to the drop down. I'm going to add a viewpoint. Okay, and I'm going to move out of that position. So you'll see now that I've got this little gizmo here on the tag. There's a line, and there's a little dot that's here. Okay, this little dot is the focal point, or the point that it's aiming at when the, what the camera is going to be looking at. So I can change either of these. If I just right click on the tag, I can move the focal point, and I can say, hey, you know what? I want you to focus in on this car over here. So I'm going to move over here like that, and then maybe I'll move this down a bit, something like that. Okay, and then that's it. So if I double click on this tag, and do that now, okay, it's going to fly into that position. And when it flies into that position, you basically are looking at the car right now. Okay, so that's pretty much the viewpoint there. And you can change the view angle, so the field of view of the viewpoint now. So that's also here. And there's some other little things like you can shut off the little pyramid, the frustum there if you want as well. Okay, so that's something that you can do there. Let me make another viewpoint. I'm going to delete this one. And I'll show you something else that we have. So if I move into a position like this, or just like that, what I'm going to do is I'll create a viewpoint right here. And when I do that, there's an option here. It says lock camera on enter. Okay, so I'm going to check that on. I'm going to get rid of the frustum. And what I'm going to do is, you can see I've got the little icon here. Another thing I should note that when I double click this, you see that it kind of like slowly animates to that position, right? Now, if I don't want that, I just got to back out of this. If I don't want that, I can shut that off. So if I go to the viewpoint properties, it says animate the camera tag. If I uncheck that, when I double click this icon, it'll just jump right into that position. Okay. Now, what I do want to show you is it says lock camera on enter. If you have this checked, it kind of acts like a still viewpoint, almost like you're looking inside of a panoramic image. So let me double click that, and we're going to jump into that view. And what you're going to notice is when I turn around now, I'm stuck in this position and I can't move out of it. Okay, so it's kind of like if you want to set up a position at the driver's eye height or a witness perspective, you won't be able to move sort of like left and right from here. You can just kind of pan around, but you can't translate actually. So this is sort of simulating a panoramic image, which is kind of cool. All right, great. So let me get rid of that. And what else is there? Oh yeah. Very important. There's a new thing called scene state. So I want to bring your attention up here. It's this sort of looks like a bunch of layers on top of themselves. And let me explain how this is going to work here just by doing a little, bringing in some models. So let me bring in some point clouds. And I've got this cobalt here. So I'm going to bring in the first model right there. And I'm not going to do anything to it. I'm just saying, yeah, go ahead and add. Okay, and I'm just going to move this guy kind of back out of the way here like that. Great. And let me just clean him up a bit, make sure he's touching the ground. You know what? It's close enough for me. All right, I'm going to bring it in again. This time, I'm going to rename it when it comes in. So this is good for me. I'm going to add it. I'm going to raise it up off the ground like that. Okay, and I'm also going to do a little bit of a turn, maybe something like this. Okay, now this is going to be Cobalt 4A. We're going to name that one here. And then I've got another one which is damaged. So it's this guy here. It's this post. So this guy here, you see the front end is damaged. I'm going to add that. All right, I'm going to lift this up, and I'm going to move this down the street. I don't know. I'm kind of trying to simulate some kind of a weird accident. Maybe somebody lost control and they smashed into a wall. So let me do something like this, and then I'll just point this towards the wall. Something like that. Let's just say something like that. You know what? Good enough. All right, slip that down a tiny bit. Okay, great. So what I have here is, this vehicle 3 times at different positions. And what I want to do is put together 3 or 4 different scenarios. So this is where I can use the scene states to my advantage. So I'm going to click on the scene states, and it pops up over here at the bottom. Now I'm going to actually rip this out of here because I can just drag it across, and I'll explain to you how this works, okay? So I'm going to start off with the first state with nothing on. Okay, so I'm going to take these 3 vehicles and I'm just going to shut all 3 off. So I got an empty scene basically, and I'm going to create a state. Okay, so and I can rename this. I just double click that and I go empty scene. Okay, like that. And what I do is or let me explain what this does. The empty scene will, when I hit save here, it's going to remember the visibility settings here. So if I go save, it just remember that everything is shut off here, or basically the vehicles are shut off. Now I'm going to create another one, and I'll call this, I'll call this Cobalt 1. Okay, our cobalt position 1, like that. And I'm going to turn on the first one. And this will be like my first position. I'm going to click Save. Great. I'm going to create a new scene state. I'm going to call this cobalt position 2. Position 2. And I'm going to shut the original one off, put the second one on. Great. And I'm going to save that. And then finally, I'm going to create the third state. And this is going to be the crash. So I'll call this crash. Great. And I'm going to save this one here. Perfect. So you can see I've got these 4 states here. And I'm going to zoom out. Well, I just docked that there. Maybe I don't want to dock that. I'm going to just make this a little bit smaller here. Just give me a second. Yeah, I'll do something like this. Make it small. Leave it right there. And I'll get a top view here. So basically when I cycle through these, if I just click on empty scene, I got an empty scene. Click on cobalt position 1. Click on cobalt position 2. And then finally the crash. So if you have a series of scenarios where maybe vehicles are approaching themselves, maybe it's a shooter in different positions or something, you can import them and then just turn the visibility off and on and save it for each state. Now this scene state also gets pushed to the viewer. So once you export this scene, the scene states, there'll be a little icon for it. You can pop it up. You can have a little window there. And if you're using this at trial or you're going to testify, you can use this to your advantage. You just say, hey, look, let me go to the crash. Let me go to position 2. Let me go to position 1. You can run through any sort of scenario. So we have some more plans with the scene states. So for example, right now you have to bring in, let's say, multiple cars and then just turn them off and on. But in the future, I think we're going to be doing some things with the translation and the orientation of the vehicle, which will not only save the visibility, but also the orientation and translation of each vehicle. So you could have one vehicle and then just move it to a new position and then save it at a different state. So yeah, these are a lot of the little improvements that we've done. There's been a few little bug fixes and things like that, but basically we're going to be releasing this very, very soon. So when you see the update, make sure you check out this video and have fun with Vision 3D. Thanks, everyone.